Hello and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. My name is Nick Colon.
And I'm Andrew Badillo, and Nick, a complete 180 for the women's soccer team this season, already with 4 wins more than last year's total. So let's jump right into it, Nick. I mean, they've had a good season so far. The offense has been there, but Are they for real?
Well, like you said, they're 4-3 this year. They've had a pretty easy non-conference schedule. It's not something that's like their standards. You know, they face a good team now in Ryder who beat them 2-0. You know, Ryder's a good team. They're moving the ball pretty well, and once they got their opportunities, they finished. Defensively, Quinnipiac looked kind of sluggish. That Ryder team looked more fit than they were. But Quinnipiac had their offensive chances too. You know, Nadia Gill put the team on her back late. You saw a lot of set pieces get put into box. Just Cassio was spraying the ball around. And Amanda Baroka hit the post late too. So you really thought that they could get a good comeback and, you know, possibly push for a result. Unfortunately, they couldn't. Are they for real? They're much better than last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, Nick, I 100% agree with you. 13 newcomers on this team, including Nadia Gill and Jess Gargan, who have made significant contributions early. I really think going forward that they can challenge. They played Ryder early on, and Ryder obviously won the MAC last year and went on to play in the NCAA tournament. They have that experience. Quinnipiac does not. I think as the year moves on, we could possibly see this Quinnipiac team challenge Ryder in the MAC in the playoffs when it comes to that moment.
Right, you mentioned it with these 13 newcomers. You saw Joe Proctor get hurt and Caroline DeBonis came in at right back. You see Sarah Kay Norton playing center back, really stepping it up there. So I don't think there's any worry about this youth. You see them pushing the attack with Nadia Gill, like you said, and Jess Gargan. Jess Cassio's moving the ball around. So they're really stepping in for a lot of the holes that were leaving last year. And, you know, I think this is really a team that could push for a top 4 finish in the MAC play. But yeah, you mentioned it with this youth team. So my question for you is, how do you think some of the veterans have had to adjust to this new squad?
Well, that's an interesting question because a lot of times you look at it from the perspective of the newcomer and say, how do they adjust? But you look at players like Jess Fontaine, a player who in years past has sort of had to do everything. She's had to facilitate and she's had to finish. Now this year, with the additions of Nadia Gill and Jess Gargan up front, she can take advantage of the finishing. She doesn't have to facilitate as much, and it's really benefited her this year. She's leading the team in points. She has, I believe, 3 goals on the year. She's just been a complete force up front. Really strong player up front for the Bobcats, and Coach Dave Clark has said that it's nice to see her be able to do what she's comfortable doing. Right,
like you just mentioned that she was facilitating all last year, and she got frustrated doing that. Now she can be up top more, and now you see Kelly Caruso actually playing left back and defensive roles. She was playing midfield last year, and Laura Nicholas, who was playing defense, is now playing center forward. She's coming in off the bench. So a lot of these old veterans have actually, like you said, have moved their positions around to adjust for all these newcomers that, you know, Dave has brought in.
Exactly, and it's so tough in all sports to play a position that you're not comfortable playing, especially at the collegiate level. I mean, you're not a professional. It's pretty tough to adjust to a new role.
Right.
So you're sort of seeing this team come into fruition early on in the season with the newcomers coming in and the veterans being able to play their role more comfortably.
Do you think it's good for team chemistry, though, to have all these freshmen coming in and taking all these spots?
I think it's fresh. I think it's good. For lack of a better term, it's fresh. It's nice. It's a good start. Maybe it revitalizes the team. It gets them, you know, a new mood, because last year, obviously, they struggled. The year before, they struggled as well.
Right.
So I think with the newcomers coming in, it brings players like Proctor and Fontaine back to life and makes them excited to come play every day with the new. It just brings a new atmosphere to the team. So I do think it's helped them so far this year, and the results show that.
Right, that's a good point. That's a good point. So why don't we move on to women's rugby right now?
Women's rugby, okay. So very interesting off season for the rugby team. Natalie Costco, not in school anymore. She's training for the Olympics. One of the best players in the world in rugby. Elena Orlando left for graduation, so did Shannon Durkin. So, Nick, my question to you is, they just stomped all over Dartmouth yesterday. We were wondering where the offense was going to come from. So let me ask you, where will the offense come from in the future, and where did it come from on Saturday?
Right, I think we got our answer. They beat them 43-5, which is an absolute rout. Freshman Emily Roscoff, she hit the ground running. She had three tries, and Moyer had led the team to with 3 tries and 3 assists against Notre Dame the other week. So I don't think there's any concern right now where the offense is going to come from. You see their freshmen having a big impact. Maggie Miles is going to be effective as well. Where do you think this offense has to come from?
Well, I think Roscoff has been unbelievable so far. She's leading the team with eight tries on the season. She's accounted more than 40-plus points. I mean, I think that it's going to come from her, it's going to come from a combination of Roscop, Alona Marr, and Maggie Miles. I think that all three of those players are going to be extremely important for Quinnipiac because Natalie Costco, you can't replace her, but you can make up for her. I mean, she's one of the best players in the world, as head coach Becky Carlson has said in years past. It's just very hard to replace her, but it's a team sport, obviously, as in all sports.
Right.
So you have to get contributions from everyone. I think those three players are going to head the offense, though, this year.
Right, you mentioned it, and this is also an experienced team, but there doesn't seem to be one single standout leader right now. Who do you think can be a good leader for this team moving forward if they make a run into the playoffs?
So I think Maggie Miles is that player that needs to step up. I mean, she's a junior. She's been here she's experienced the playoffs. They came oh so close last year to the national championship game. So she has that experience. Roscoff and Marr don't have that experience coming in of getting to the playoffs. And sometimes it's good to experience that sting of defeat because you know what it feels like and you don't want it to happen again and you're ready for any opportunity that might present itself in the future. So I think Maggie Miles is going to be that key player for the rugby team going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Maggie Miles definitely needs to be a leader for this team. You know, usually when you have freshmen coming in, they're going to be your talent. And if Emily Roscoff has to be a leader on the field, that's kind of a troubling sign because you don't really want a freshman to have to take over that role. But I think if Maggie Miles can be effective, be a leader along with Taylor Johnson, and they can make a good run into the playoffs. You know, they did well. They had Penn State last year. It was a good team that beat them. But I think that they can make a good run into the playoffs this year.
Sounds good, Nick. Well, that'll conclude this break. When we come back on Bobcat Breakdown, we're going to talk some men's soccer and see what they did this past weekend. All that and more coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike's sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
And welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm here with Andrew Badillo. And you know, after last night's loss to Yale, 3-2, the men's soccer team dropped to 0-5-1. So Andrew, let me ask you, is it time to panic right now for Eric DeCosta's team?
I'm going to say no, Nick.
Okay.
And I know by the look on your face you're going to disagree with me, but let me give you why I think that it's not time for the panic. We've seen this in years past with the men's soccer team. They've played some tough non-conference opponents coming in, and I mean, Eric DeCosta's mindset is that he wants to get his team ready for conference play.
Right.
I mean, non-conference games when you're in a mid-major conference pretty much mean nothing.
Yeah.
So he wants to get his team ready for October. This next upcoming game against St. Peter's is going to be important, obviously starting conference play. But this team is thinking about November.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the new playoff structure.
Yep.
They want to take advantage of it, and Eric DeCosta is taking all his pieces and playing them right now and see what fits the best.
You mentioned the different playoff structure this year in November. See, what I don't understand is this preseason was so light for them, from what all the players have said. So I don't understand why DeCosta wants to save all his players for something that's going to happen 2 months down the road. Why doesn't he just see what he has now? Like you said, they play good teams in non-conference, and they haven't excelled in non-conference in the past couple of years. They've always turned it around when Matt came around. But you could even take some strong potentials from the last 2 seasons. You could highlight key players like Michelle Baker, Rafael Carvalho the last couple of years, who you think, okay, they might do well in the MAC this year. This time around, they've scored 2 goals coming into the Yale game. So I can't pinpoint anybody that's really going to be successful going into the MAC. I don't know if DeCosta can do the same either, honestly.
Well, I think I disagree. I think you can pinpoint some players. I mean, we've seen nice contributions from Rashawn Daly, the freshman.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
a true freshman. I mean, why can't he step up and be that Marshall Baker?
Rashawn can't be Marshall Baker at this point in his career. Rashawn has a great potential to be a Marshall Baker down the road, but right now he's not getting the service that he needs in the box. And when he does take players on, he's not playing that center forward role. He's actually being moved to a number 10 spot right below that, or a winger spot. And that's where also another problem comes in. You see Doig, before he got hurt, was playing a right wing. Doig, his freshman year, was playing a defensive mid role with Brandon Strangood and Simon Hine moving the ball around. He's not a quick player that's going to get down the line. Now, last year he was successful getting the ball to Marshall in the box, who got onto virtually everything. But he's hurt now. So now they're going to have to put somebody else over there. John Diaz hasn't been playing. Tanner Jobe is a very quick player, but he hasn't gotten the ball and his chances. So right now, the whole structure and formation, I don't know who's going to really excel.
So with the structure and format being a mess, I mean, isn't it a good thing, though, that DeCosta is figuring it out early on? I mean, it's tough. Like I said with the women's soccer team, it's tough for a player to play a position he's not comfortable or it's not his natural position.
Right.
But where does that fall on? Is it the job of the player to adjust, or is it is it more so on the coach?
Well, luckily, Quinnipiac is the last over year. I'll give DeCosta, he's a great recruiter. And these kids are very talented. I think that this formation right now could be changed. I think you see players playing positions that they're not accustomed to, like you said. You see a center back change almost every week with Mikael Ellis and Eric Panzer. So there's no comfortability there. Tobias Esch and Stephen Hawkley have been the only consistent defenders. Oscar Evans has been playing well, but even he makes his mistakes, and he's experienced. You got to give him some of that. And Tristan has been playing well up to this Yale game. But what I think the major problem is all these changes that are happening, and no players are getting really confident. They're not taking players on. They're not feeling comfortable in this system. That's what I think the problem is.
Okay, so with that being said, you mentioned some of the defensive problems. That's a whole nother thing.
Right.
But offensively, we've seen Rashawn Daly with the goal, and John Diaz also contribute with a goal.
Right.
It's sort of what we've seen in years past, where you have contributions coming down the board, but there have only been 4 players who've scored.
Right.
Who needs to step up on offense, and if there's a certain group of players that need to step up, what does DeCosta and this team have to do to put the ball in the back of the net?
Yeah, I just think more players need to get involved in dangerous positions. I think you see Greco, when he was playing, he did get a red card and came off the bench against Yale. I think when you saw him playing, he likes to get the ball in dangerous positions, but a lot of times he has to facilitate play because Shaq needs some help. Shaquille Huggins needs some help. So I would like to see Greco get into more dangerous positions and combine with players rather than just switching the field. I'd like to see John Diaz get more minutes. I'd like to see Tanner Jobe get more minutes so that they can really tire out defenses because they're dangerous players that can take on people, So with Doig hurt, it's going to be tough for them. But I think the biggest thing is just to get players to take on more responsibility so that other players don't have to pick up all the slack.
And let me ask you, I've watched a few games that I've noticed that the problems seem to start at the back end.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for you to transfer the offense through the back line to the midfield when there are problems all over the place. Is that what you see do you see that going on?
Yeah, that's a great point. DeCosta likes to play short out of, especially goal kicks, because he won't hit it up top to get all the height. So they'll play short out of the back, and they'll try to find their key players. We see a lot of the time costly errors and mistakes trying to switch the ball forward, and that defense has really been a problem. That's why it's been changing so much.
Okay, moving along to equestrian, Nick. What is going on with Quinnipiac and equestrian?
Right, so in June, Quinnipiac paid just over $4 million for about 38 acres of space right down here towards Mount Carmel Avenue to set up what was to be a rumored equestrian team. Now that might really become a reality now. And if I can read you a direct quote from Lynn Bushnell, who is the Vice President of Public Affairs. She said, "An equestrian program and center would fit very nicely with Quinnipiac's mission and interests of our students." Now, I disagree. I think if you ask any student athlete, they might complain about the space in their locker room right now. They might complain about maybe even the school getting a swimming pool, anything else. An equestrian team, I just don't see how that fits.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I mean, the school has a lot of other issues that they need to take care of. The school is in $400 million of debt. They just got plans to build a track and field complex denied by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So there are just many other problems. There have been, I'm sure the baseball and softball teams would like a nice complex of their own. That's another issue.
What about some parking for North Lot?
Yeah.
Anything.
There are plenty of other issues ahead for this school. And I mean, the school is trying to make the bang for their buck by offering the services of the equestrian complex to the town.
Right.
But I just don't see the school being able to make any money off of this equestrian program.
Right, you've seen other schools do that same exact thing. They're offering it up to the public so that they can make some money off of it. That would make sense. But you also got to wonder, here's my biggest question is, who they're going to put on this roster? Are they going to recruit players to be on this team? That's really what I'm wondering. Who's going to be on this roster?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Questions, all that, we'll just have to wait and see,
Right.
Nick. Okay, moving along. Volleyball. It's been a really tough year for Chris Saplinski and his squad. They're 1-11 on the season. We're going to take a different angle to this question. I mean, as a coach, how do you sort of combat this, and how do you sort of keep the mood light in the locker room and push through this? Because it's been going on for a few seasons now, and it's really, it's tough.
Right, I'd like to see this team finish, at around 500 if they can. Right, you said they're 1-11. They just lost to Niagara today. Allison Lay got hurt, so that's going to be tough for them. From a coaching standpoint, I just don't think that you can harp on the negatives. I think they just have to be as positive as you can at this point. They're 1-11. There's not much to be happy about right now. As a coach, it's a tough spot. He hasn't been really successful. So, to be honest, it's a tough question. I don't know if there's much he can do besides being positive.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not sure what they do behind closed doors, but even like team bonding activities, anything that can keep the mood light. Certain road trips that the team may take. I mean, they lost two key parts of that team this year. Allison Lee, the injury, and Cheyenne Orsi is no longer at Quinnipiac. So it's just so hard for a team that was already facing challenges to come in this year with those two losses and sort of find any success that they could. So I think for Saplinski to get his team through this year, it's just going to lighten the mood, push through it, look towards the end of the year, and just say, hey, we got this many games left. Let's try to win as many as we can and move on. You can't focus on the past. You have to have short-term memory loss in sports, and that's really what this team needs to have.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to a bit of a recruitment issue. I would like to see it's hard to bring players into a losing program. But there hasn't been any really star players. Even you see some losing teams at Quinnipiac have some star players. So I'm really curious to see who he's going to bring in the upcoming years. If this winning record means anything. If this losing record means anything, if he keeps his job or not, I don't know if that plays into it at all. But I would really like to see, some different recruits come in.
Yeah, Nick, that's all great points. Okay, we're going to take another break on Bobcat Breakdown, but when we come back, we're going to have our buy or sell segment where me and Nick will tell you guys who we're buying and who we're selling heading into the fall season. We'll be right back.
We are your source for entertainment news.
Welcome to Joya Spa and Salon in Hamden. Whether you want a new look or the perfect wedding day hair, come to us for complete hair and nail care, cuts, styles, updos, extensions, and beautiful dimensional hair color, as well as manis and pedis, acrylics, gels, and shellac. Treat yourself to a facial, a peel, or microdermabrasion. Relax with a variety of massage techniques, including Swedish and hot stone massage. Joya Spa and Salon. Call today.
Laser Medica Derma Centers is a new philosophy in skincare for all ages. We are dedicated to offering the most technologically advanced and least invasive skincare treatments. Show your Q card and receive 20% off any procedure. We also provide microdermabrasion and Botox treatments, all performed in a relaxing spa environment. We are conveniently located at 52 Washington Avenue in North Haven, just down the street from Quinnipiac's North Haven campus. Call to schedule a free consultation and find out how Laser Medica can give you smooth, sexy skin all year long.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Hello and welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Andrew, why don't we kick off by starting with women's field hockey. Right now they're 1-6, and they've been outscored 7-23 throughout their games. Where's this inability to score coming from?
Well, I think it's the tough non-conference schedule, Nick. And, I mean, it rivals the men's soccer out-of-conference schedule in that it's very tough. They faced off against Boston College, UConn, Michigan State, Lafayette, and Maine, all of which were in the top 50 in RPI according to last year's RPI rankings. UConn actually being second in RPI. Right. So, I mean, it's just hard. Yeah. It's hard when you go against the best in the country and you're a mid-major school. It's just very difficult. Yeah. And, I mean, they lost Danielle Allen to graduation last year, their leading scorer. Michelle Federico is here, and Becca Main said it. Coach Becca Main said it last year that she believes in Michelle Federico can be one of the greatest players in the school, in the program's history. So she returns, and you're also getting great contributions from Angie King this year. So I think the team is fine despite the record. The 1-6 record is obviously hard, but you've seen this team in the past struggle out of conference and do very well in the MAC. Right. I mean, last year they almost went all the way, and the year before they went to the NCAA tournament, winning the MAC championship, and they struggled with their non-conference schedule. They got beat pretty bad by a few teams. So, I mean, I think it's just keeping the morale of the team up. The youngsters on the team, the freshmen and the sophomores, could get a little discouraged losing 7-0 to UConn. Right. But I think that's Becca Main's job to sort of remind them, and also Megan Conaboy's job, being a graduate student, that, hey, we've been here before, we've climbed out of it, and we've done very well in conference. And I think that's the message that those two people need to send to the rest of the team. Yeah,
I agree. And the biggest thing I think that I'm taking away from what you just said is the mid-major playing really good teams in non-conference. You know, that's the point. If you're a mid-major team, you don't want to play lower caliber teams, because when you get into MAC play, you're just going to get clobbered. So they're playing good teams, and they can take positives all away from that. And right now they have 6 different goal scorers, and usually that's a good thing. But they're averaging a goal a game right now, so they don't really have a star player. Like you said, Danielle Allen was lost to graduation now, so they don't really have anybody to generate any offense. Angie King has been solid for them, of course, but that's not really going to help them win many games. It'll help them secure some games. So for right now, it's not all bleak, it's not all bad, but they really need to have somebody step up, like maybe like a Savannah Riley, to really generate some offense and just get angry and get really dominant going into MAC play.
Now, I know you mentioned Savannah Riley, and I do think that she needs to step up, but I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. I know Michelle Federico is young, but she has a lot of pressure on her. Obviously, Becca Main saying last year she believes that she's one of the best. She could be one of the best players in this program's history. Is it her job to step it up this year? She's already leading the team in points and goals. But does she have to do any more to get them wins and to get them goals? Yeah, that's definitely big praise too. So I think if she's been given the opportunity and the time to be the star player, that yes, there is some responsibility on her to be that player for this team. I do think that
with the players around her that she shouldn't be the only one that should be leaned on. But I do think that she needs to take a brunt of the opportunity and really provide for this team in a way that she's been expected to.
Excellent points, Nick. So with the non-conference schedule, we kind of already hit on it. But, I mean, last year, it, of course, reaped benefits for them heading down the stretch. Do you think it will this year? I mean, they've gotten beaten pretty bad by a few teams.
Yeah.
But do you think that this year, with the new players coming in, that it will help them?
Yeah. I think maybe from like a morale, confidence standpoint, it might hurt them. But I think when they go down later on in the season with some experience, it's going to help them. You know, they're really pumped up for these big games, and they really want to execute and be beneficial for the team. So I do think that, you know, like with any team, when you play good teams, that you're going to get pumped up and you're going to get an experience from playing good teams. That's the only way you get better. So I do think that it will reap some benefits for them. It was a tough beating, but it's not all bad for them.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit
Okay.
there. The team is struggling to score.
Right.
And you need to score to win games. People say defense wins championships, la la la, all those cliches. But if you can't score, you're not going to win games. And I just don't know if Michelle Federico is ready to take on that responsibility. I don't know if she's ready. She's young. She has all the pressure on her shoulders. Danielle Allen learned the year before, last year, Danielle Allen learned her junior year from players like Kristen Engelke and Jess Rusin, who are tremendous offensive players. Danielle Allen was the only offensive, really, presence that Quinnipiac had last year, and I just don't know if Michelle Federico can do what Danielle Allen did last year at such a young age.
Right, that's a good point. So why don't we move on now to our buy or sell segment? And let's start off with tennis. Andrew, buy or sell, do you think that men's tennis will be able to win the MAC this year?
Men's tennis, I am going to sell them.
Okay.
I just don't know if they have what it takes this year to win the MAC. They lost a few key players last year. I don't know if players like Kei Izaka and Sebastian Barbara are ready to sort of take on the top teams in the conference and get it done.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to buy it.
Okay.
They did well this weekend. You saw William Van Buysen. He led all Bobcats with 4 victories on the day. And they had 5 different Bobcats earn 3 victories. So I think that, you know, this is a team, it's a young team too, with a lot of good talent that can be spread around in different matches, different flights. So I think that, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they will be successful this year in conference.
Okay, so let's switch over to women's tennis.
Sure.
Who buy or sell women's tennis having success in repeating as conference champions without Jacqueline Rayner?
There's my point right there. I'm
Yeah.
going to sell it. I don't
Okay.
think that they will be successful without Jacqueline Rayner. They do have a good freshman in Pro Hyphison, and she kicked off the Invitational this week with a team-high 3 individual victories. So she could be definitely a player for them to watch, but I'm going to sell it because without Rayner, I don't know if they'll be successful.
Well, I'm going to buy it because
Okay.
Rayner wasn't the only player who did really well for Quinnipiac last year. They had many contributions along the board, and it's not one player who wins it for you in tennis. You have to have contributions all across the board. So that's why I'm going to buy the women's tennis team repeating this year.
Okay, fair enough. And why don't we move on to golf? Do you think that they can, buy or sell, compete for a top spot?
I'm going to buy that, actually.
Yeah.
They had contributions today from the other day from 4 freshmen, so they're young, and I like that. I think that it's new for this team. It's very similar to the women's soccer team. They're not as they haven't been as successful as the women's soccer team, but I do think moving forward that they can certainly contend atop the MAC.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm going to sell it because I get your point about the women's soccer team. They have a lot of young faces, but I think this kind of mimics a bit of a women's volleyball type thing. They haven't been a successful program, so I'm going to say they sell it. I don't think they'll be at the top spot.
Okay, valid points, Nick. So moving along to our step up or sit down segment. This is a segment that I'm really excited for, a new segment on Bobcat Breakdown. So Nick, who was the athlete that stepped up for you this week?
Me, I think Jess Fontaine stepped up. She has 3 goals and 3 assists. I think she's been huge for the women's team. Like you said before, earlier in the segment, that she has a different role now, so she can really be effective. And, you know, I think that it's just reaping benefits for the entire team. Who do you think is your step-up player?
Well, the player that I think had one of the most impressive weekends for Quinnipiac sports this weekend was Emily Roscoff of the rugby team.
Right.
I mean, she's been an absolute force this season. 8 total tries. That's Natalie Costco-esque. She's just been incredible for this rugby team, and absent with Costco being absent. So she's the athlete who stepped up for me this weekend.
Okay.
What about the athlete who took a step back this weekend?
Well, I'm actually not going to go with an athlete who took a step back. I'm going to go with an individual that took a step back. And with all due respect, I think the men's soccer team and Coach DaCosta will be my sit-down individual. I don't like the formation that they're going out with. I don't like the system that they're going out with and how they're preparing for November in September. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that they're seeing what they have. I don't think that the right players are starting. And I think there's a bit of an ego pride going on that's kind of affecting this team right now. And I don't see that being beneficial for this team at all. Who do you think is your sit-down?
I'm staying on that men's soccer team, but
Okay.
I'm going to take Tristan Henry, the
Wow,
goalie.
yeah, okay.
And it's very tough for me to pick him because he's stepping in and trying to replace Borja Ingorta, who we all know is probably one of the best players in Quinnipiac history.
In all sports.
All sports.
Yeah.
Incredible goaltender. Essentially won them that MAC championship. He was incredible in that playoff stretch. But Tristan Henry, to me, is just tried to do too much sometimes.
Okay.
And you saw it in that Yale game on, I believe, it was one of the goals where he came out and there were 4 or 5 Quinnipiac defenders who were surrounding that one Yale player.
Right.
And he came out and left his goal open, and the Yale player was able to volley it over his head. So for me, Tristan Henry just needs to take a step back and let the defense figure it out. He's trying to do too much sometimes. He's my step-down athlete of the week.
Okay, fair enough.
And that will conclude the first episode of Bobcat Breakdown.
Make sure to check out our website at q30television.com and the QBSN.com. And that will do it for us tonight. For Andrew Badillo, I'm Nicholas Colon. Thanks for joining us.